Hi there, my name is Malcolm Wilkinson, and welcome to Millennial Meals, a place where we show you how to make some delicious meals and treats right in your own home. So in this episode, I just want to do something a little bit quick and dirty. So today, we're going to be making some tortilla chips. Let's get cooking. So for ingredients, you're going to want to use some corn tortillas. In this instance, I use some yellow corn tortillas. So if you're oil, you're going to want to have some vegetable oil, or you can use some peanut oil like I did. For equipment, you're going to want to have a knife, a cutting board, a pan, and some tongs in order to flip your tortillas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my tortillas. So what I got is yellow corn tortilla. I'm basically going to cut them into basically just chip sizes. And then I'm going to pour my peanut oil inside my pan. And I'm going to get up to about 350 degrees. And then I'm just going to throw my slices into the pan and start frying them up. So for my stove, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting my temperature about medium for the stovetop. So again, what I want is I want my temperature to be about 350 degrees. If I can find it. So I just turned my stovetop to 350 degrees, and I also put the peanut oil inside my pan. You can use vegetable oil or some other oil that you like, but personally I'm using peanut oil. Now this is the same peanut oil that I filtered out in the turkey video that went so well. So when it comes to heating up your oil, you're going to want to see what temperature it is. So in this case, I'm going to want to see if it's going to be about 350 degrees. Right now it's only 72, so I got to wait a little while for it to reach that temp. Once it hits that temp, then we'll be good to go and throw in our tortillas, or our yellow corn tortillas, inside the pan. All right, so the temp is around 350 like I want it to be. So now it is time to throw our tortilla shells onto the, into the pan. So usually what I do is I throw probably about 8 little triangles inside. You don't want to do too much because it kind of gets harder to, I think the best way to put it is flip them, because you're going to eventually get to have to flip them. And what we want to do is we want to get the edges a little brown. Once the edges are brown on both sides, then we're able to take it off and then we can eat it after it's cooled down. Turn off the stove because we don't want that turning on. I'm also going to let the oil cool off. Once it cools off, I'm going to strain it back into the peanut oil because we can still use a lot of this oil. But now all my tortilla chips are done. So this is how much tortilla chips I made. It took me a little while, but it's totally worth it because I love homemade tortilla chips, especially when I can throw some Himalayan sea salt on it. But with that said, this is how you make homemade tortilla chips. Y'all stay safe and have a good one. Hi there, my name is Malcolm and this is Millennial Meals. And on this episode, we're going to be making some fried chicken. Let's get cooking. So for equipment, you're going to want a deep fryer, a basket or a spoon, a knife, cutting boards, some bowls, a cake pan, tongs, and a fork to stir. For ingredients, you're going to want to have some chicken, flour, garlic, paprika, and onion powder, smoked salt, black pepper, milk, Frank's Red Hot sauce, some peanut oil, and eggs. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my chicken and I'm going to put it inside this bowl because I want to wash it first. So, got my chicken right here. So when I wash it, I want to just make sure I get it thoroughly clean, kind of like when you wash your fruits and veggies. After that, I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces because right now, I don't think anyone really wants a fried chicken strip this big. So with that said, I'm going to start washing some of these big chicken breasts. So the next step here is we're going to want to add some flour. I'm going to put about, I'd say about a cup. Actually, let's say a cup and a half. Go. If I have a little extra, then I can always throw it inside a Ziploc bag and then basically freeze it for another, use or another fry off. So with that, I'm going to throw some paprika, garlic, and onion powder in here. This one's just going to be, I'm going to be basically tailoring it as I cook. I just don't, there's not really a set recipe, so I'm not gonna say like, hey, put like 20 tablespoons or teaspoons, because with this, it's kind of like how you like it. With me, I like a little bit of garlic and onion taste to my food. So I'll throw some garlic and onion. I'm gonna put a little more paprika because I like my stuff a little spicy, and then it's also gonna add a little bit of color to my fried chicken. Also, I got some smoked salt and some black pepper. So that's gonna also help a little bit with the texture and also with the flavor. Now, if you're curious on how to make your own smoked salt, there's gonna be a video in the description, and that will be how you make smoked salt. Also, it covers smoked cheese as well. So after you get all your seasonings inside your bowl, you wanna make sure it's pretty uniform. You don't want it all to look like the same. I guess you don't want like clumps. So after when you feel like you got it pretty nice and mixed, just put that to the side. Now the next step, the one that I like, is gonna be getting our eggs ready, or at least what I should say is like the little glue. It's basically what's gonna help the chicken stick to, well, our mix. So I'm gonna use about 3 eggs, and I'm gonna pour just a dab of milk, so not a whole bunch. All right, next I'm gonna add just a little bit of milk. Then I'm gonna add some hot sauce. Not a crazy amount, like I said before, nothing too crazy, but I wanna add a little something different to this batter. Once you have your mix, stir it up so it's a bit more even. Add more ingredients if needed. Once you have your mix, grab some chicken and throw it in your cake pan. Then throw it in your flour mix. Be sure to evenly coat your chicken pieces. I placed my chicken on a plate at first to maintain the moisture, then I transferred them to a cutting board. Well, I should say 2 cutting boards. If you run low on your flour mix, just add more ingredients as needed. This is also a good stage to experiment with some different mixtures. Once all of your chicken is coated, it's now time to fry. For my cook, I filled my deep fryer with peanut oil. You can use vegetable oil, but in my opinion, it really adds some nice flavor to your food if you use the peanut oil. I set my fryer to 350 degrees for this cook. Be sure to measure the temperature with a thermometer to ensure you have the correct temp. You'll want to cook until the chicken turns like a goldish brown or maybe like a darker brown, and it starts to float to the top. It'll take around about 8 minutes, but if you want to be extra careful, grab a meat probe and see if the internal temperature is 165 degrees. And also check if there's any pink. If there's any pink, then it needs to be cooked a little bit more. For this meal, I decided to get some crinkle cut fries that were frozen, and I gotta say, they were really good when they were fried to complete this meal. But with that said, this is how you make fried chicken. Y'all stay safe and have a good one. Hi there y'all, and welcome to Millennial Meals. On this episode, we're going to be making some fried rice. Let's get into it. So for ingredients, at minimum, you want rice. So for the rice, I used jasmine rice. Now for the secondary ingredients, I had eggs, bacon, chicken breasts, mixed veggies, green onions, cashews, butter and oil, crushed red peppers, soy sauce, and finally, garlic. For equipment, you're gonna want a rice cooker, a pan, a spatula, a knife, a stir cup for your eggs, a large bowl or 2 large bowls depending on how much you need for your ingredients, and a cutting board. Now, depending upon your ingredients, you may want to start with your meats first to ensure they've been properly cooked before you try to mix them in your overall batch. In this case, I like starting with my bacon and eggs first. Now grab your pan and put it on your stovetop and turn on to medium heat. For this process, I started off with about 3 strips of bacon at a time. Once those strips were done, I would throw those off into a different plate and then put 2 scrambled eggs into that pan to soak up that bacon fat to add a little bit more flavor to the eggs. So it was basically 3 strips of bacon, 2 eggs, 3 strips of bacon, 2 eggs, and I would do that until all those ingredients were done. Each time I had a small batch of bacon and eggs that were finished, I would throw them into a separate plate. When you have all your finished batches of bacon and eggs in one plate, be sure to cut up those eggs and smash the bacon into smaller pieces to make it easier to have smaller portions when you add it to the overall batch. Next, you're going to want to grab your chicken breasts and place them into the pan. Cook them thoroughly until there's no pink coloration on the inside. grab a meat probe if available and check the largest portion of the meat to test the internal temperature. We're looking for an internal temperature of about 165 degrees. While the chicken is cooking, you may want to get your rice started so that it'll be ready once your meats are finished. When each chicken breast finishes, place it on your cutting board to cut it up along with your bigger pieces of vegetables. In this case, it was my carrots and green onions. For the secondary ingredients, place those into a large bowl. Once your rice finishes, place that into another large bowl. At the end of this, you should have 2 large bowls, one with your secondary ingredients, like your eggs, bacon, and all the other fun stuff, and another with just your rice, which is your primary ingredient in this concoction. Basically, the point here is to make sure all of the ingredients are properly cooked or prepped before throwing them all together in one big mix of flavors. For some folks, they like to have 1 bowl of rice and 1 bowl for the ingredients. In this scenario, I simply had 1 large bowl filled with rice, where I would then throw in my secondary ingredients into it to lower the amount of dishes I'd have to clean after, and also to more easily track where I was in this big cook-off. Just be sure to mix it up properly so that there isn't any pockets of just one singular ingredient. With your ingredients ready, throw about a tablespoon of butter or a dab of oil along with a teaspoon of garlic into the pan that you were using earlier to cook all the previous ingredients. Let the butter or oil spread into your pan, and once it's about in the liquid form, throw about a plateful of the mixed rice into the pan. Cook the rice in the pan while stirring it intermittently for about 2 minutes. After about 2 minutes, you can start adding your soy sauce and pepper flakes all the while stirring it like before. Every so often, you should pour yourself a small portion of your fried rice to try it and tweak it to your liking. In my case, I would cook it for an additional 5 minutes, all the while still stirring it to make sure that it was evenly cooked. Each panful should take about 7 minutes to cook fully if you did the previous steps. This can vary though depending upon the amount of ingredients you have. Once everything is said and done, you should have a plate full of fried rice in a reasonable amount of time, unless you're making a large batch like I was. With that said though, this is how you make fried rice. Hope y'all stay safe and have a good one. Hi there and welcome to Millennial Meals. On this episode, we'll be making the German dish known as schnitzels. Let's get right into it. For ingredients, you're going to want a pork loin, eggs, milk, and a breadcrumb container. You can usually find this in the store in different flavors, and oil. In this case, I'm using peanut oil. For equipment, you're going to want a cutting board, a mallet, a knife, a deep fryer or pan, a cake pan, a medium bowl, and optional, you can have some plastic wrap. When it comes to making schnitzels, the goal is to have thin slices of meat that are easily chewable while being wide in size. With your pork loin, start cutting it roughly into 2.5 centimeter thick slices and set them aside. If making a clean cut is difficult, you might want to freeze your pork loin partially for an easier time. Once you have your slices, grab those pieces and put them on your cutting board. And if you do have it, put the plastic wrap on top or saran wrap to place over the pork loin. Once the piece is wrapped, you'll grab your tenderizer to begin hitting the slice. Start at the center and slowly work your way to the edges, and just keep whacking at it until you get it to the desired thickness and width. I generally like making the slices about half its original size. With your cake pan, pour enough milk just to barely cover the bottom of the pan. Next, open about 3 eggs and drip them into your cake pan. With a fork, churn the eggs and milk together till it's mostly about the same looking liquid. If you see some yellow strips, that's fine, as long as we got our eggs inside to help act as a glue with our milk. When your egg milk blend is ready, you'll then grab your pork loins to dunk into the binding blend and basically spread it on both sides of the pork loin. Pull your pork loin up and let the excess egg blend drip off of it back into that cake pan, and place your slice into a bowl with all the breadcrumbs. Be sure to cover both sides. You may want to do a couple of flips though to get it evenly coated. Once you're done, place it on a separate plate. If you want, you can take that breaded slice and place it back into the cake pan to get some of that liquid egg blend and put it through another round of the breading for a breadcrumb bowl. Keep in mind, if you double bread it, you may have to cook it a little bit longer in your fryer. Once you have your pork loins breaded, you can now start frying. For the skillet, you'll want to fill it with a shallow amount of oil on a stovetop set to medium heat. For a deep fryer, you'll set your temperature to 400 degrees and wait till it reaches that right temp before frying. When the oil reaches temp, Place your pork loin away from yourself to avoid a splashback of hot oils. It takes roughly about 5 minutes for a pork loin to be fully cooked, but a good rule of thumb is that if it's floating and not putting off much bubbles, then it should be good to munch upon. For me, I would cook my pork loins for about 2 minutes on each side, but if the pieces were thicker, like the double breaded pieces, then I would cook it for a little bit longer. Once your schnitzel is done, hold it above the fryer to let the excess oil drip back into the pot, and then place your schnitzel on your plate to enjoy. If you feel the schnitzel needs a little bit more, just more little pizzazz, you can add a little bit of gravy on top with some thinly sliced mushrooms, or you can simply garnish it with some thin slices of lemons. With that said though, this is how you make schnitzels. Y'all stay safe and have a good one.